Chapter 8. Debugging and Better Understanding Your Code. This chapter covers determining the source of a bug, fixing errors with Copilot techniques, debugging code with Copilot, using the VS Code debugger to see how code is functioning. There will be a point in every programmer's career when their code isn't doing what they want it to do. This has likely happened to you already, and, rest assured, it's a normal part of learning to program. How do we fix the code? Sometimes, changing the prompt or better decomposing the problem like you learned in earlier chapters is sufficient to fix the problem. But what do you do when you just can't get Copilot to give you different or better code, nor can you figure out why the code you've been given doesn't work properly? This chapter serves two purposes. The primary goal is to learn how to find errors, called bugs, in the code and fix them. To find those bugs, you'll need to fulfill the second goal, which is gaining a deeper understanding of how your code works while you're running it. The good news is that having an error in your code is such a common occurrence for programmers that programming environments such as Visual Studio Code, VS Code, have tools to help us uncover what's going wrong. We'll learn how to use that tool, called a debugger, in this chapter as well. Like the past few chapters where we started small, we'll learn the concepts behind finding and fixing errors with some small examples, and then we'll more authentically showcase the process by diving into a larger example that's similar to the kind of code you're likely to write in the future. Section 8.1. What causes errors, bugs? First up is a quick terminology lesson. Many decades ago, computers used relays or vacuum tubes rather than transistors. The story goes that Dr. Grace Hopper, while programming one of these early computers, experienced an error caused by an actual bug, a moth, in a relay. Today, we use the term bug to refer to a mistake in a program, though we're not dealing with literal bugs anymore. Now, bugs are caused by mistakes by programmers. When we debug our code, we're working on removing those bugs. There can be bugs in the implementation of Python itself, or even in computer hardware, but they are so rare, it's safe to assume an error in your code is because of your code. No one intentionally causes bugs in their code if they are genuinely trying to solve a problem. So why do bugs happen? Well, software engineers and Copilot make mistakes. What kind of mistakes, you might ask? There are two primary categories of bugs. Syntax errors. These errors occur when the code doesn't follow the Python syntax requirements. For example, forgetting to write a colon at the end of the first line of a for loop is a syntax error. When you run Python, because it's trying to generate machine code based on your program description, it will run into a mistake, not know what to do, and give you an error. Sometimes these error messages are more readable than others. When people learn to program in the traditional way, without Copilot, these errors are really, really common. It takes a while to learn all the rules of Python, and to make those rules a habit. Even the two of us still sometimes write code with syntax errors, despite decades of writing code. The good news is that writing code with Copilot almost entirely eliminates this problem. The bad news is that of the two types of bugs, syntax errors are the easier to find and fix. Logical errors. These errors occur when there is something logically wrong with the program. For example, maybe the intent of the code is to count how many times the exact word Dan appears in a list of words, but the code actually counts how many words in the list contain Dan, ignoring case, anywhere in the word. This code would be doing the wrong thing on two counts. It would count words like Dan and DAN as matches even though we don't want those to be matches. And it would find Dan as any part of a word rather than the full word. That is, it would count words like Daniel, danger, and Dan, even though we don't want to count any of these. Somewhere the code isn't doing what it should, and we have to figure out where and why. Often finding the logical error is the hardest part. Once we know where the mistake is, we have to fix it. And fixing these bugs can range from changing a single character to completely rewriting the code. Logical errors can happen when a prompt isn't well described or when Copilot, for various reasons, generates the wrong code.